Looking to get started with Google Sheets? Well, you've come to the right place because this tutorial will teach you everything you need to know to get started using Google Sheets. Now, before we get started, if you like this video, please click the like button. It really helps my channel out and shows YouTube this channel is worth watching. If you want to see more of my videos on various productivity apps, you really should hit that subscribe button. All I cover on this channel is tutorials and how-tos on various productivity apps, and by subscribing you will be sure not to miss out. And lastly, if you want to be notified when I release new videos, please click the bell. Thanks. Okay, let's get started. As you can see, I'm inside of Google Sheets here. This is sort of the, once you've logged into Google and gone to sheets.google.com or docs.google.com and selected Sheets, this is the screen that you'll see. Let's take a look quickly at the top bar here. You can see this is where you sort of get started for things that you haven't already created. So you have a blank spreadsheet button here, which if you press that, you'll get a blank spreadsheet. You also have a bunch of templates here. So here's the handful of templates. And if you want to see more templates, you can click on this template gallery. I'll click on that real quick. And then that just expands down into all the different types of templates you can use. So we have here education, project management, work, personal, and then of course you have your recently used. I'm going to hit back to go back. And that sort of shrinks up this template gallery option. So if you wanted to create a new spreadsheet, the easiest thing to do is to click the blank button here, which we'll do real quick. And I have, it gives you an untitled spreadsheet. It always does that. It takes a second to fully get ready, as you can see here by the working. And you have a couple different things here. First thing you normally want to do when you create a spreadsheet, before you do anything, is to give it a name. As you can see, if you come up here where I'm hovering my mouse, you can see this is untitled spreadsheet. That's the default name it gives it. You just click on that, it will say this is a random spreadsheet. Oops. Hit enter. It'll save that name and save that file. It'll tell you that it saved it. So this is where the document status will show up whenever you save it. You'll see that status update. You have a couple icons here. You can star this spreadsheet, which means it'll be at the top of your list. So I'm going to do that real quick here just so you can see it. You have move, so you can move this to a different area, or you can see the document status, which I click here. It'll tell you that all the changes have been saved. It's not ready for offline access. If I want to turn that on, I can click here and do that. I'm not going to do that though, because this is a sample spreadsheet I don't really care about. If you navigate over here to the right, you have comment history, which there are no comments on this. So if I wanted to add a comment, I can just add a comment here. Say, this is a comment. Okay. And then what'll happen is this cell now has a comment. So when I hover my mouse over it, I can see the comment. I can also come over here and see all the comments for this particular spreadsheet. If I want to get rid of it, I can just click on this little icon here, hit delete. I'm going to delete that. And as you can see now, that cell no longer has that comment. So this is how you get started with a spreadsheet, creating a new one. I'm going to actually open up an existing one so we can kind of play around with it and learn some of the functions of Google Sheets. So stay tuned. Okay, we're back. So as you can see here, I have several spreadsheets here, and one of them is my a spreadsheet I created earlier offline called Fake Spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on that. So as you can see here, I have a basic spreadsheet. So what I might want to do here is add another column. So the easiest way to do that is to click on that column, type in the column title I want to have. So let's say show. I'll make it lowercase to keep consistent. And now I have it there. Now notice here I had it set up with a blue background with white text. So the way I would do that is click on it again. And then if you look up here, this is my text formatting section here, from like here to the right. And I can color the text, and I can create a fill. So let's use the fill. The fill fills the background of this cell, whatever color it is. Right now it's white. So if I click here, I have a bunch of different color options. And if I come here to like blue, which is the wrong blue, of course. Let's say blue. That's the right blue. Now that background is blue. But you notice that now my text is not really readable. So I can come in here to where my text color is, click on that, and change it to white. And now you can see it's white. But you notice it's also not centered. So the way to center it is to come up here, click down, and click center. And now it's centered. Now, depending on how, if I come down here and I type in Game of Thrones, you can notice that my text is bigger than my column. Now, there's a couple ways I can deal with that. But the easiest way for now is just to click and drag the border outward here. Give it a good amount of space. And now that is there. Now, I may want this centered. This looks a little weird, not centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all three of these cells by clicking my mouse on one cell and dragging to make this sort of selection box for all three. And I can come here, and right now it's horizontally aligned, which left aligned. So that means it's aligned to the left side. I can align it to the right side here. And now you can see the text is there. Or what I really want is to center it. So I'll center it. And then what I can do here, I can start typing game. And notice, one of the cool things about Google Sheets is it is smart enough to know when you've typed something in already. So here, I have already typed that. So when I start typing Game of Thrones, it already knows Game of Thrones. I can enter. And actually, the other thing I can do here is I can just click this. Let me do that again. One of the things you can do here, let's say I wanted to had a bunch of entries here, and they were all the same. I can just literally click this and drag my mouse, and then now that value will be applied to everything in here. So that's a really quick trick. So if you have like a bunch of entries here where this stuff might be different, but this is always going to be the same, rather than have to retype it over and over again, you can just simply click and drag that value. Now I'm going to undo that. I'm going to drag this down one. Hit enter, and now you can see I added my text here. So pretty quick and easy how to do that. In the next section, we'll cover working with numbers and formulas. Okay, so my next spreadsheet here, I have a very simple grade book. Now you notice down here at the bottom, before we get started editing this, you can see that by default, Google Sheets gives you names, sheet, and then a number depending on how many sheets. Now I've deleted sheets, that's why it's a little bit off here. But let's say I wanted to change this to grade book rather than sheet 5, because it's not really descriptive. I can sort of double click here. And now you can see this is highlighted. I can hit my backspace, type in gradebook, hit enter, and now the name of this particular sheet inside this spreadsheet is gradebook. I can go back here and type in Game of Thrones by double clicking it, type in maybe GOT for the acronym, keep it short, and now that's Game of Thrones. I can come over here and see that this is gradebook. So that's a quick way to edit, to make your tabs more recognizable. When you have one or two tabs, it doesn't matter, but as you start growing more and more tabs inside your spreadsheets, giving them a label that describes explicitly what they are is essential to being effective inside your spreadsheet and knowing where your information is. So coming back to our spreadsheet, this one's a little more complicated than the last one. I have a first name and last name for these students. If you know what movie this is from, drop a comment in the comment section. I'm a huge fan of this movie. If you've seen my channel before, you probably already know this. But if not, if you're new to the channel, just drop in the movie that these characters are in and let me know that you know. Great. So here I have their first and last name, and then I have 5 different courses that they're taking with their respective grades in each course. A lot of times you'll see numbers, just a number here. I put the percentage in, but the reason why I did that is because I wanted to convert this. So let's say I wanted to see what kind of value type this is, because this could be text, this could be a number, this could be a percentage, this could be a date, it could be a lot of different things, and I want to see what that is. I can come here, select it, and then go to format, and then I can see that it's a number right now. But what if I wanted that to be a percent? I can click the percent, and you can see it's now a percentage. Now notice it gives me these extra zeros after the decimal point. Now, most of the time for grades, you may or may not want that. Let's say I didn't want it. I didn't want these 2 extra decimal points. If you come up here, we have a decreased decimal places and increased decimal places section. I can click this, I can select all of these, click this twice, it removes it once, click it again, it removes them both. So quickly what you see, if I wanted to add them back in, I just go to increase. I can do as many as I want there, but that gets kind of silly, so I'm just going to take them out. The other thing you can do here is you can look at formats here. Let's say you just want to pick up your formats. Rather than going up to format and then selecting it, you can just click this button right here, go right into your formats, and then you have various options here. We have our percentages, and that's how you do numbers. So if I had a number here, let's say I can come down here and I wanted to make a dollar amount here, and I said I want 2.85, so $2.85 for example. Notice it's not in that format, but if I come here, click on it, go to my formats button, come down to currency, I could click that down. Now another cool thing I could do is, let's say I want a rounded currency. I could click on this, and right now it's $2.85. I can click on this button here, come down to rounded, and it'll round it to up or down to the nearest dollar. I could undo that by just coming back and choosing currency again, and now it's $2.85. So that's how you mess around with formatting of numbers and cells, like what data type it is. That becomes very important when you start using formulas. It becomes very important sort of how your data gets represented. And you just want to be very clear on what the data type is for the thing that you actually want to represent. If you're representing money, you want to use a currency data type. If you're representing a scientific number, you're going to choose scientific. If you're referencing text, it's going to be plain text. If you're referencing a date, it's going to be a date format. And the biggest reason why you want to do that is because you start messing around with formulas. It becomes essential that the data types are what they're supposed to be. Now, let's make a formula. So formulas allow you to quickly and easily manipulate data and calculate, because that's really what you're using a spreadsheet for most of the time. It's to store data, but it's really to calculate data, to take a bunch of data and do some operations on it to determine, to get some insight on what's happening. If you have a financial spreadsheet, how much money you have at the end of the month, or how much expenses you had, what the totals were. And spreadsheets are great at categorizing data and allowing you to do advanced mathematical operations on them. Now, most of the time we're doing very simple operations that we tend to do over and over again. Well, things like summing, right? We'll have a bunch of values and we'll want to know the sum of those values, as an example. Or in this case, I might have a bunch of grades and I want to figure out the average of them. So I'm going to create a new column. I'm going to call it average. Enter. As we did before, I'm going to come in here and change the color of my background. I'm going to change the color of my font, and I'm going to bold it because this is all bolded, and then I'm going to center it. And of course, I picked the wrong color again. Wouldn't be me if I wasn't still picking the wrong color. Which one is it? Is it this one? Oh. Yes, it's that one. Okay, so here I want to figure out all the kids' grade average across all their subjects. So what I might want to do here is, there's a couple different ways I can do it. I can do it the hard way, which is type in an equation of typing equals. That's how you indicate an equation. And this is actually already knows what I want to do because I've done it earlier. But let's say I wanted to just do the most simple thing. This, actually, you know what? I could do the traditional thing, which is this plus this plus this plus this plus this. Close my parenthesis and divide that by 5, the number of grades I have, and hit enter. And then, of course, that's going to give me an amount. I convert that to a percentage, and it gives me the percent. And then I can delete off the edges. That's one way of doing it. But that's very tedious, and that's not the most effective way. Because if you had a ton of values here, and a ton of students, that would just get very arduous instead of having to create these things. And if you add another course in, now it messes up all the averages. Applications like Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, they recognize this. And what they do is they give you functions. And other functions mode in a prepackaged sort of list of functionality that you can use. So rather than typing that, I can type equal and type the word average in uppercase. And that's telling, and with a parenthesis, and that's saying take the values in here, all the values I have in here, whether it's 2 of them, 10 of them, 100 of them, or in our case, 5 of them, it's going to run the average function, which is going to add them up and divide by the number of cells I have selected. So let me just do that again real quick. I'll type equal average, right? And then what I do is the average of what? Well, I create a parenthesis. I click and drag my mouse across the values I want that to encompass. So in this case, I have these 5 values for Charlie. So I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values calculated. So it's going to do is going to add these up. That's what this does. All these cells, every cell from starting with C4 and ending and including G4, and take those values. And then the average function says I'm going to add them up and divide by the number of cells. Close the parenthesis, hit enter, and now I have that. As you can see, it's 92%. Well, that's great, but do I have to type in average for all of these other rows here? No, I don't. I can actually click that little corner of my cell and drag it, and it will apply that same formula to each row's, to the adjacent row cell. So in other words, Google Sheets is smart enough to know that I want to take this equation, but not the literal values in here, but the relative values in here, relative to this position. So in this case, it knows that because I wrote this equation that this cell should be the average of these 5. So this cell, when I dragged it down and applied that same function, it took that, it says, yeah, apply it, but relative to my current position. So in this case, I'm 1 down, so it takes all the values here and averages it. Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. Again, really quick and easy way to sort of calculate this. So you can see that I have the average here. Now I can also do the same thing here. So I can sit here and type equal average. It doesn't just work for, equal average. And of course, Google Sheets is really smart. It knows I probably want the average of these numeric style values up here. Is this what I want the average of? Yep, I do. So I'll just click on it and then hit enter. And then the average score in math is 87. What about English, Spanish, chemistry, and history? Well, like we did before, I could click that side and just drag it and hit and just let it go. And then now I have the averages. So the average history score is 90%. The average chemistry score is 87. So pretty quick and easy way to do calculations here. So I hope this was helpful in terms of that. Let's move on to the next section of our tutorial. Okay, so here you can see I have a bunch of values here and kids and the number of chocolate bars they bought. As you see, some of them bought way too many candy bars, but okay. And let's say I could do a couple different things here. Like earlier I talked about being able to create a sum, everything. So I can hit equal, type in sum. And again, much like the average function, the sum function is simply going to add up everything that I select. So here it's smart enough to know, do I want to do that for all these values? I'll say yes, I'll hit enter. And now I have 6402. That's the sum of all these values here. But what if I want to only see the kids that bought over or under a certain amount of chocolate bars? Well, the easiest way to do that is to create a filter. And filters are really powerful once you get the hang of them. They can be a little intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of them, they really allow you to customize how you view data and how you're able to cut to the chase, if you will, and find the stuff you want to find. So here I'll come and click on this cell here. I will go to data. I will go to create a filter, as you can see right here. I'll click on that. And now notice that I have this sort of green on the side and up here. And I have, more importantly, these little funnel icons here, right? Next to the kid's name and also next to the chocolate bars bought. So let's say I want to create a filter that showed me only the people that bought 1,500 or more chocolate bars. So I can come over here, click my filter, and as you see, I have a ton of options here. But what I can filter by values, for example, and that's all these different values here. I can filter by color. So this is good if you had a fill color or a text color and you just wanted to show everything that had a certain color. Sort by A to Z or Z to A. So I can come over here, for example, and I want to sort the names in alphabetical order. It'll go by the first letter. As you see, A to Z, Augustus, Charlie, Mikey, Veruca, and Violet. I can also do it Z to A, and it goes in reverse order. I'll just go back to A to Z. That's easy enough. And then let's say I want to, again, go back to our original sort. Let's say I only want to see the values that have bought 1,500, 1,500 candy bars or more. So I'll come over here, and I'm going to filter by condition. This is the power of filtering right here. So you'll click on that, you drop down the arrow, and then you get a bunch of options. Is empty, filter if it's not empty, if the text contains certain words, so you might be filtering on a tag or a phrase. You can exact match it, you can start it, you can also say it does not contain something, so if you wanted everything that doesn't contain a certain word in it, for example, you can do that. You can use dates, and here's really where we're going to spend some time. So this is what I want, the greater than or equal to. So this is going to say everything greater than or equal to I'm going to show. So I'll click on that. And then it gives me this little column text box underneath that says value or formula. And this could be a formula, it could be really complex, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to keep it simple. 1,500 is what I want. This is saying that only show items that are greater than or equal to 1,500. I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, I have 2 places that do that have that value. So there, only those 2 kids will show up. If I come back here, and I can remove it by just coming up here and saying none, hit OK, and then all the kids are back. And as you can see, everybody's here. I can do the same thing by coming over here and doing a less than. So let's say I want to see everything that was less than 1,000. So I can go to condition and then say less than 1,000, hit OK. And here it just shows me Mikey TV and Charlie Bucket because they're the two that had bought less than 1,000. So filters, that's a quick demo of filters, but in the future I'll do a more complex, I don't know why this is not working, there it goes. I'll do a more complex version of this where I show more options on filtering, some advanced filtering techniques, but this is a beginner's tutorial, so I wanted to keep it kind of high level, but enough where you can get the idea and get started on your own. So next we'll talk about working with dates, so stay tuned. Take a look at this spreadsheet. We have a simple project tracking spreadsheet, and what we want to do is just mess around with these dates. So there's a couple things you can do here with dates. So I can highlight all of them. For example, I can go to Format, Number, and I can come down here to Date, and it's going to give me the default date. And as you see, nothing changed. But what if I came down here and want more formats, more date time formats? And if I click that, it's going to give me all these different types of formats I can have it in. So I can have the traditional one I have now, right? Click on that, it's no different. I can type in the month. I can change it to this, hit apply. And as you can see now, it changed the month from a number to the actual name. I can highlight them again, come back underneath, and if I want to change that back, I can just go right back up to here and click it. And here it gives you the format of how it is. So let's say I wanted the month and I wanted the leading 0 in it. If it has a 0, I could add that in, hit OK. And you notice, obviously it doesn't affect the 12 because it doesn't need a leading 0. But here for like January and February, it adds that leading 0 in. So sometimes you might want that. In this case, I don't really want that, so I'm going to get rid of it by coming over here, more dates and times, and I can come down here again and I can say without leading 0. I could also do the month as abbreviation, month as full name, or the first letter. I'll do it without the leading 0. Hit apply, and there I go. What if I only want the month and the year, for example? So I could go again, Format, Number, Daydream there for a second, and I can come down here and I can say month, year, and this is only going to show me the month and the year that I'm in. I can hit Command Z on Mac, Command Z on a Mac, Control Z on Windows to undo that. And so let's say I just wanted to have, let's do one more. Drop down more formats, more date time formats, and then let's say I wanted to have it be in this format. The day, the month, written out, and then the year. I can click that. I can also change this if I wanted to make it the number. So I might do without leaving zeros there. And then rather than having, now I have the day, then the month, then the year. Because some places like that better. Not everybody's America. Some places do it differently. And I don't want to be too America specific here. But let's undo that because I am in America and that's the way we represent it is month, year, day. Even though I think a lot of people like to do it least to most. So it would be day, month, then year. But in this case I did month, day, year. So that's how you do dates. And next I'm going to show you how to do a pivot table. Okay, so I have a yearly expenses worksheet here that I'm going to use. Very simple, 3-column spreadsheet. And it's basically building up a tracking expenses for a blog and YouTube business. So it has a bunch of expenses here, the item, and then the category they fall into. And a lot of times you might want to see this data sort of represented in a different way, maybe summarized or broken out by category or broken out by amount, etc. And you want to retain the structure of the existing table. So what I'll do here to make a pivot table is just click and drag my mouse to highlight both the headers and the content. I will go to data. I will go to pivot table. And then it's going to give me an option. It shows me the range of everything I took, which from A3, the top here, to C11 down here. That's all defined by cell ranges. I can either put it in the existing sheet or I can put it in a new sheet, create. It gives me a pivot table. And then notice there's nothing in here yet but rows and values. So one of the things you can do is you can define for your rows, you might want your category. And then my values, I might want my amounts. And one of the nice things I can do here, right, is it, whereas my table here, if I go back, shows each individual item and then each individual amount. If I just wanted to know how much I'm spending on my blog and how much I'm spending on my YouTube channel, I can come over here now and see that I'm spending $769, $430. And actually, I should probably just come over back to here, make them currency by highlighting them. And a shortcut to creating this as currency is coming over here and just clicking format as currency, this little dollar sign. So if I click that, there we go. And then if I go into my pivot table, as you can see, Google Sheets is smart enough to realize that if I have my existing values are currency, I should represent those as currency on my pivot table. It shows me a grand total of how much I've spent across all categories, as well as how much I've spent per category. So very quick and easy way to define it. If I wanted to show all of my content, for example, I could get rid of this, my rows category, hit rows, unless I wanted to have item, it shows them, and then I could also add a separate row for category. And what it does here, it'll have the entry and the entry total. So let's say I had multiple items that were the same, it would actually add those up. So if I had multiple audio subscriptions, for example, multiple Canon subscriptions, or multiple domain names, entries, then it would add those up. Pretty cool. Obviously, this is not super useful for the specific example because I literally have one entry for each of these. But if I took that out, I can just take the item out, and it goes right back to my values here. If I had more values or whatever, I could add those in. If I had more information, I can add that in. But this is a quick way. This is the way I typically use it. Is I normally have I have an expense spreadsheet for my business, and I have the categories for that, and then I have a pivot table off of that that shows me how much budget is being used for each of my categories, which really is helpful when you want to figure out where your money's going and how you spend your money in terms of how it breaks down. You can do this not just with obvious expenses, you can also do this with revenue, which is also what I do. So I have ad revenue, for example. I have blog ad revenue for my blog, productiveengineer.net. Go check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. I also have it for my YouTube channel. And I actually have also things like affiliate links, so Amazon and Impact, which is for Skillshare, and things like that. I have separate categories for those, and I can see how much per year or per month or per whatever time period that information is, how much I'm making per month. Everything's normally done per month on a blog, or a YouTube channel. So I can see per month how all the things calculate, both from an expense standpoint as well as a revenue standpoint. And yeah, so it's pretty cool. So that's how you use pivot tables, and that brings us to the end of our beginner's guide. I hope this was helpful to you. Again, if you liked this video, please click the like button. It really does help out my channel. If you want to see more videos on whether it's Google Sheets, Notion, Evernote, or any other apps like Todoist, please just hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, obviously, because I get more subscribers, but more importantly, you get to see the latest great stuff I'm working on. I'm constantly creating content for these applications on how to use them, and I'm really just trying to help people learn these great apps, because we really are in a lucky time here in terms of all the great apps that are out there to help us get things done. And lastly, if you want to be notified when I release new videos, please click the bell. And if you have any comments, any suggestions, any questions, leave me comments. I read all my comments and I respond back. So drop me a line if you have anything to ask me. Thanks.